Okay, so I am excited to kind of share with you the relationship booster triangle. It's a method that we've been doing in different forms for really 5 years now, and increasing as marketing for inns and independent lodging, I would say, gets harder as there's bigger players involved, Airbnb being the recent giant. As those get involved, how do you continue to do marketing when there's so many players trying to step between you and your guest? And that's kind of what we're talking about. All my tabs are showing. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to leave it in this mode instead of the full presentation so that I'm in interest of time as we go, I can keep better track and I can skip some things. And, but if it's not big enough, let me know and I'll go to presentation mode and just do that. But yeah, it'll have some of that extra stuff so you can see what's coming a little bit too. So if that gets annoying, let me know in the chat. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about that, and so I'm going to give you kind of the overview right now. I'll introduce ourselves, and then we'll get right into it. So I've got a bold claim, one that I feel is backed up by experience, and that is that this customer group should be every property's first focus right now in 2020. You're all hurting. You're all challenged with a lot of cancellations, much lower demand, at least in most cases. We got one property that's really booming for a couple of reasons, but in most cases, it's a real challenge. And so, this customer group is the most important, and I see you're all going to nod your head when I show you and talk to you about it, and you're going to say, yes, it is. But I would introduce you to some consistent ways on how to reach them, who they are, how to kind of adjust your thinking and reach them, because human nature is kind of goes against continuing to reach and delight this group. So this is a bold claim, but I really believe this is the key, because outside sources, there's OTAs, there's Google, there is word of mouth. There's a lot of outside sources of potential bookings, but there's no other source where this next guest, this future guest, is going to be the most valuable that you control the communication with them. So just a little overview on who your best future guests are, and talk about some of the why behind that. We'll talk about the cable company, the absolute wrong way to do marketing, and how we're all guilty of it to some extent. The lifetime value of a guest, thinking in those terms. And then we'll detail the triangle and give you some really meaty details. I'll give you some details from a longtime client, Christopher Place Resort. They're an intimate resort, an inn with some resort amenities really in the Smoky Mountains. Beautiful place. Been working with them since June of 2015. So 5 years now. So we'll cover all of these things as we go through. I'm shooting for about 45 minutes, and then I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm happy to dive in and give you some ideas specific for your end, so we can talk about, as you're thinking about this, how do I apply this? I can help you do that live. And then we can jump on a one-on-one later if you have interest, and we can go into more detail, but I want to kind of get your guys' creative juices going specifically to your end. So this is kind of what we'll cover as we go. Just a quick little bit introduction to us, to who we are. And I'm just gonna check the chat. For some reason I can't. All right, good. All right, so I want to check the chat, make sure I didn't have anything. So Red Oak Philosophy. I just want to introduce you to who we are, what we do, and things like that really quickly. So we are partnership driven. That means we operate on like a done for you type of basis. We believe that innkeepers are some of the busiest folks out there. Whether you have a staff, whether you don't have a staff, you're one of the busiest business owners out there. And so you need a partner that can come in and help do it for you, but also we can plan the strategy together. So we operate on that, and it gives us really deep down in the weeds kind of experience with properties. We do local marketing 100% of the time. I would say 80% to 90% of that is with independent lodging, much like yourself. And we've been doing that, like I said, since 2014. I say we're driven by excellence, guided by performance. When I say that, I mean that we are digital marketing nerds, but we don't want to drown you in data, and we want to drive to continued creativity and continued growth. It's so easy for a company like ours to become complacent, and you'd have no idea. Digital marketing is always progressing, and there's always different ways to approach that creatively. And so that's our drive and our philosophy. We're detailing our tracking, and we don't do it all. We only do a handful of things because we want to do them well. You work with the Walmart of online marketing companies. It's going to mean that you're mired in average, because no one can do all the things when it requires digital marketing. So we just do a handful. This is specifically what we do. We do smart websites, feedback and reviews, the relationship triangle. We're focused on that today. Some advertising, Google Local, and content marketing. So we stay focused on that. We keep cutting down so that we can do things well. This is our small team: myself, my wife, 2 content specialists and a digital specialist, and we have a whole team of others, contractors, developers, people like that support the business. But this is our core team that you would interact with, and we want to stay small. We don't want to have hundreds and hundreds of clients. That's a quick path to average and cookie cutter in our belief. All right, I want to introduce you to the marketing pyramid. This is how we focus all of our thought around marketing for lodging properties. You start with a smart website foundation. You add in the relationship booster triangle. You add in really good quality feedback and reviews program, and then you add visibility, content marketing, Google Local, and advertising programs. These are your foundation. If you start from the top and work your way down, or try to jump all over the place, it doesn't work. It doesn't work as well, because you start with the foundation. And so we're going to be talking today about the relationship booster triangle. This is all focused on what we call your best future guest. Okay. So let's get into it. Your loss of communication equals a loss of income. So some of you deal with OTAs. Some of you, OTAs are a big part of your business. Some, they're a minuscule part of your business. And then some of you are, even if you're booked direct, there's can be a lack of communication. So you want to talk with and have that connection to your past guests. Your past guests and those coming through your property, you need to have that communication. Booking.com obscures or really obfuscates email addresses, which just means you don't get to see it. It goes inactive after they've stayed. It's useless. Expedia, you can get that data, but it is often not as valuable because they're not as loyal to you. But when you lose that communication, or when you lack communication, meaning you get those direct bookings, but then you fail to follow up consistently, then it directly comes back to a lack of revenue on your part and a lack of connection for long-term business. This is something I keep coming back to, and this is what I think we can all agree is the wrong way to do marketing. So the cable company, if I say the cable company and I say, what's your last interaction with them? Almost 90% of the time, someone's going to have a bad interaction, because what they do is they are all about their new customers. They're all focused on their new customers. You can see, I just took this screenshot this morning. Get America's Best Internet, Simply Best Entertainment. It says $30 a month for 12 months with a 1-year agreement. So they're locking you in from the start, 12 months. You all know what happens after that. They start creeping you up. They might give you another deal, but it costs a little bit more, or it bundles. So they're trying to go out and fish for new people all the time. And the longer you're with them, the worse you're treated, right? So if you've been with them 5 years, they don't care. You have to almost switch somewhere else to switch back to get them to pay attention and give you a decent deal and reach out to you. So they will reach out to you. They'll send you all sorts of offers and everything as you get close, but that's the only time you reach out. And so that is the heart of kind of the issue with a lot of businesses, is they've got it kind of backwards. And most aren't as bad as the cable company. They don't almost act, cable companies almost feel like actively disdain their most loyal customers. Most of us operate, and I'm guilty of this too, almost on neglect. I'm thankful for current customers, but I need more and more and more. It's that human nature where we're looking for the new, we're looking for the more. But the best folks to work with are right here at the top. So your best future guest is your past customers. So we oriented all our services around this belief that they're your best customer groups. Number one is your past customers. These are your best, absolute best future guests, and I'll talk about them in a second. Number two is those that are influenced by your past customers. Those are referrals offline, and their reviews and the feedback that you get from your past guests, and that influences the next group of people that are searching for you, and that's the third group. Those are those searching for your product and service. So those are the three groups that we believe are the absolute most important. Most of us flip this, and I would say actually add a fourth group on there, and that's been marketed for a long time, and that is people that just random people that we hope are interested in what we have. And so that can come about through marketing with a billboard. You're just marketing to anyone that passes by. You're not really targeting on those who are searching. So we've stripped it to these three customer groups and orient everything towards focusing first and your best marketing on your past customers, in your case, your past guests. These are your best future guests through and through. If you think about it, these guests, they've already made the choice to stay with you. So they've been there in the past. They've already given your money. They've traveled all the way to your property. They've enjoyed everything you've provided. And a large percentage of them have been really, really satisfied. They may be almost ecstatic. So you think about these, rather than convincing someone new who has no idea who you are, you're not the Hilton. You don't have some brand understanding of what you might expect. And theirs is more of a name than a brand, because you walk into a Hilton, you might not really know what you get. But you kind of know, and there's some trust in there. If someone's coming new, you have to overcome a lot of obstacles to get their trust. So your best future guests are those that have already stayed with you. And I know that you know this, and if you're on the phone with your past guests, you love people that are coming back. You provided a great in-person experience for them. But a lot of times I find that a lot of folks orient all their marketing towards new. So it doesn't cross over to their marketing much at all. It's all focused. If our past guests come back, great. We're going to take care of them on property. We're going to delight them. But how do you do that with your marketing? How do you put your focus on reaching them consistently and delighting them with your marketing, helping them to remember? If I'm the cable company, that's boring. I don't want to hear about them unless, they're trying to make a whole different, make my life better. A hotel, lodging property, you guys are more than likely connected to a significant life experience that someone had. They had an escape. That's easy to follow up and help them remember, and then activate them to come back. So those are your best future guests, are your past guests. So like I said, reaching and delighting them with your marketing is the key to your property's long-term success. I've always believed this. We've always operated on this, but we've clarified this more and more as we've walked with our clients through trying to come through COVID, and what we're seeing actually work, what's bringing phone calls, what's bringing bookings. We're getting some from Google. We're getting some from OTAs, and that's great. And it depends on your geographical location and the type of property, whether you're whether you're super high end or middle market or more of a budget, whatever it is, some of those are going to depend. Most of the results that we're seeing is that is where our past guests are coming through. So, okay, I'm gonna pause for a second and then I'm going to explain to you the method, and then we'll get into more detail and on the why as well. If you have any questions, like I said, we'll kind of dive in more once at the end of this. But any initial questions or any thoughts on, oh wow, I never thought about it like this. I'm curious on any of your feedback as well. Just go ahead and type that in the chat. I'm gonna get a drink of water while I wait for your awesome questions. All right. Okay. No questions yet. By the end, I know I'll have some. I like questions. Okay. So if you just joined in the middle of this kind of intro piece, just a quick introduction. I'm Matt Hefner, Red Oak local. We served independent lodging since 2014. We're a small team that is all about unique, targeted offerings that connect back to ROI for our properties. And we've developed this method of which you've done different parts of it. Which you've done different parts of it, but bringing it all together, we found is absolutely the most effective. So Rebecca, you say some innkeepers do have a quick question, collect Expedia guests' actual personal information at registration and attempt to target them as repeat guests. Yes, absolutely. That's one of the best things that you can do, is if someone absolutely open yourself up to OTAs on a limited basis. If you don't, already, it can be a great source of bookings. But what you want to do is you want to have that direct connection. And I found the absolute best way, and some of you may already do this, is you ask, especially booking.com is the worst, about obscuring their guest information. It's come to when they come into the property, just ask them, hey, we want to send you an invoice and send you details, and ask them for their customer data, so you can fill in what you don't have from those places. And then taking that, a lot of folks that do that, they then don't take it to the next level and actually use that to reach out on a consistent basis. And I would argue on a monthly basis is ideal. So if that gives you an idea, but yeah, absolutely, that is key. OTAs are a necessary, I'll use the term, they're not necessarily evil, but necessary evil for many of us until you can really build up your direct business. Even then, they're a nice filler for when you're extra slow. But I would, like I said, encourage focus on this first. Those are nice add-ons. Okay, I'm going to talk about the method, and then we're going to kind of dive back into some other things. But I want to kind of have a framework for what reaching and delighting your past guests, which are your best future guests, reaching and delighting them looks like on a consistent basis, because it has to be done consistently for it to be the most valuable. And so I want to give you that kind of framework and a rough idea of what that is, and then we'll dive into some important things, and we'll get to some examples as well. So this is the relationship booster triangle. It brings together three pieces that are really important into one method. A lot of folks do one of these, they might do two of these, they might do it, but doing this consistently is really, really key. So the first piece of that is some type of message or offer. This is not just about the quick, special. It's about connecting. You need to have something that you can develop an emotional connection with your past guest over time. So highlighting those things on your property that they really enjoyed, and seeing that other guests are enjoying them is key. It can also be short-term offers, and those are good. Those bring in revenue, absolutely. And then you distribute whatever it is you want to share. You've crafted that. You've worked on that. You distribute that through email marketing. So all boring email marketing is still going. It's still the best way to reach your guests because you control it. Every other way, you don't control it. And people, whether they like email or don't, I happen to really dislike email because I'm married to it, basically. And yet I open it and I look at those places that bring me value, that send me. Most of the email newsletters that we get, we don't open, but when it's done well, it's absolutely the most valuable for you as a property to do, far and above social media marketing as one example. The second place that you distribute that is through what I call Boomerang Ads. You're reaching out to people that are connected to you in some way, mostly your past guests, and then you're sending this message, this offer to them, and you're distributing it through these ways. If you just do ads to them, not as effective. If you just do email, not as effective. You have to do all three of these and put a lot of thought and creativity in all three of these pieces. So I'm going to jump to a quick example. We're not going to dive in. I'll come back to that. But the top of the triangle is the message. How do you share your story? And like I said, it is not about a short-term thing. It's about specifically trying to connect with them. That can include offers, absolutely, and it should, because you got to have short-term revenue. You got to have to play the short game, and you got to play the long game, basically. So sharing your story. So here's some ideas of how you share your story. You can talk about what are those amenities that are designed and desired by targeted guests. I'm going to later introduce you to Christopher Place Resort, a longtime client of ours. They are specifically built for romantic getaways. They do weddings as well, but their first focus is on romantic couples getaways. Kids under 12 cannot stay. Everything is oriented towards a couple getting away and escaping from life on the top of a mountain, which is where they're located. So talking about that, what are those unique things? The view there is one example. Talking about the view at their property. That's what everyone mentions. That's what all the pictures from guests are, is that view. It's so amazing. We do specific offers designed to meet their needs and delight them. Like I said, I find a lot of times properties are stingier with their past guests than they are with new. They want to get more. I would say put your best offer towards your past guests and reach out to them. They're going to only love you more for it. You can feature your best times and events for guests to travel to the area. There's a lot of, even if you're in a not exciting place, you can there's still things going on. There's still unique things. That's what people want to get out and explore. And then obviously the experiences, the anytime experiences in the area for them to enjoy. So those are some ideas for that top part of the triangle, what you do to share your story. And then you distribute it through email marketing. I hope most of you are doing email marketing already in some way. This is just one example. Christopher Place, I mentioned, we'll talk about their fall campaigns, fall in the Smoky Mountains. It's beautiful. Very fun to send emails for that. So you're sending an email and you're doing a very focused email. You can do a newsletter. I see a lot of properties doing really long emails, and we do in-depth emails for our clients. But at the very top, you need to have a couple of elements. You need to have an image that pulls them in, a title that further pulls them in, and then copy or text that tells them a story. It's not short and to the point. I never really want to see that because I want them to read through and start dreaming, start remembering their memories of the place and their escape. And then you can't see this on the screenshot. Down at the bottom is a button. You always got to have a link of an action that they can do. And sometimes we have links to 2 different actions depending on where they might be. So that has to be at the top of your email, and that has to be very clear on your emails. You can put other stuff down below, but you want that. That's busy people. That's where they're going to see that. So that's the email marketing portion. So we talked about the message. We talked about the email marketing. Number 3, the Boomerang Ads. So Boomerang Ads are all about targeting people on Facebook and Instagram that are connected to you in some way, and then reaching them with a dreaming kind of ad. This is just an example from Glen Cove. We're doing a giveaway where people are sharing their memories of a past stay. We're doing this right now, going for another week. It's amazing how many people just have so many different experiences to share. So it's focused on that long-term play of building loyalty, building connection with people. You also may choose a short-term option like an offer, but it's all focused about that. And if you go to their page, just amazing how all the things. Christopher Place, we've done it for them as well. I just had this one handy. So Boomerang Ads is where you're reaching back to people. All right, I'm going to come. So on the advertising front, so a lot of people are like, a Boomerang ad. I do some Facebook ads. I boost posts. I do Google ads. What's different about a Boomerang ad? And it is because you have this invisible asset available to you. I've called it audience here, but really it's this asset that you can use to target people ads on Facebook. Compared to any other advertising, it's cheap, it's so effective, and people love it. And this is where it comes from. This is mountains of data and assets that you may not have even realized that you had. So you can send ads on Facebook and Instagram to people, and just you can do this on Google. You can do this on LinkedIn. You can do these types of ads. We found Facebook, Instagram, by far the cheapest and the most effective way to go. So we focus everything there. So you have customer data. You've got of your past guest, emails, phones, steady state. You can upload that into Facebook as a custom audience, and it matches them to anonymizes. I think I was going to butcher that word, but basically you don't get to see someone's specific profile, but Facebook uses their algorithm to match it to a profile the best that they can. It's not perfect, but it gets a lot of people that you can then target an ad to. You also have website visitors. If you put a pixel on your website, you can target either all traffic to your website or specific pages. We've done this in the past where we will target people if they've visited 2 to 3 pages of 2 to 3 pages that are high value pages. That means they have a high level of interest, meaning they're looking at the policies page, they're looking at different rooms pages, they might be jumping over to their booking engine. Shout out to Think Reservations. They have where you can add your Facebook pixel to that. So now you can get anyone that visits that. So that's another source. There's some others that do it, but they just they added that last year and make it so easy. And so that's a great thing as well. And then special interaction. So probably a lot of you are doing social media updates, your photos, videos, things like that. You can create an audience based upon that and send them additional ads that are based upon whether they like, commented, shared, and whatnot. So all of that data you can then use as an audience to target for an ad like this. All right. This is the last thing, and we'll come back to this, but here's an example timeline. So this is it probably feels a little bit kind of disjointed with everything going on, but this is a timeline of what we follow. This is not for every month that we do this for a client. It doesn't follow the exact same, but typically this is going to be the path that we follow. We want a consistent follow-up over the course of a month, and we change out what we're featuring each and every month. So we can keep it fresh and creative, and people can keep paying attention. So your follower, your past customer, they are going to follow through this process. So think about week 1 in a month, they're going to get an email. That same week, and we should add this in, the next week, if they didn't open it, they get the email resent to them. That same week, they're going to see an ad on Facebook about it. In 2 weeks after they got that first email, or a week after they were resent it, if they didn't open in that first week, they're going to get email number 2. And then they're also going to get ad number 2 in that 3rd week, and also that 4th week. So they're going to get followed up with consistently wherever they are with some type of what I call an ad, but really is a connection. And then an email that's not a hardcore sales email, but it's a value-based email, like I mentioned, like talking about watching the mountains change color from the top down. That is a total sales pitch it goes to check availability and it goes to their midweek special. But you know what? No one cares because they're looking at the picture. They're thinking about the colors changing, and we've built that in to how we write it. So, okay. So just to kind of give you an idea of how this is consistent follow-up over the course of a month, it's all leading to in the case of an offer, it's all leading to a landing page. It's a page on your website that is all about this offer, this special, and talking about that. If there's a lot of situations where we'll use something else, if you're talking about, I'll get into more examples, but leading to one landing page, and then you're doing a call to action. You're asking them to do something specifically. So that's just hopefully gives you an idea. I find a lot of properties are doing an monthly email newsletter. That's great. There's definitely value to that. But I find that you have to be a little bit more consistent. There's a lot of noise. Having 2 emails a month and then having different ad creatives that gets to the heart of it is really key to keep people paying attention. So you got to have that consistency month after month with different campaigns. Okay, I'm going to pause here, take a drink, and we'll kind of dive into more details. Any questions on as I went through the triangle here? Let me go back up to that. That was a really condensed explanation. Hopefully it was clear with some of the graphics there. But yeah, if you have a question, throw it in the chat. Oh, good question, Kimberly. If you can't see in the chat, Kimberly says, yikes, wouldn't uploaded customer info to Facebook violate their privacy? The fact we committed not to sell their info. Great question. Absolutely not. You are not selling their information to Facebook. So the process, I know everyone's heard about Facebook's privacy issues, and they made adjustments on that. But uploading your customer list to that, Facebook has a lot of privacy things in place despite their bad press. So they hash all of that data. So they make those matches, put them into audience, and then delete what you updated. You also can't, like I said, see specific individuals. In that, you just have an audience to now go after. You're not selling their info whatsoever. You're using it through Facebook's platform, much like you did if you would contract with a direct marketing company that would help you send out a mailer to your past customer, past guest through the mail. They would have that. They wouldn't use that. You're not selling that for another purpose, but you're reaching out. So I know it sounds scary, but it's available and been used. I've used it for 6 years now. I think it's been available for 7 or 8. There's people that do, I'm sure, abuse it, even with stuff Facebook has in place. It's totally on the up and up. So can your landing, okay, Kristen said, can your landing page just be a page located in your blog system? Potentially. We can talk more about that. But yeah, potentially. And if I mumbled that, she says, can your landing page be just a page located in your blog system? What I would say is the biggest deal is that a lot of folks will try to make a page do multiple things. I just had a conversation with an innkeeper. I was talking with them a little bit, and they said, why can't I just add my offer to my homepage? I'm like, because your homepage is doing a lot of different things. So the short answer is, if your page is doing one specific thing, like a blog, and let's say it's a blog about fall in the Smoky Mountains, and that is what it's all about, and then maybe you have an offer in there, perfect. It's all focused. When someone clicks, just think about how if you click from an ad, you click from an email, even if you love the place that you clicked over from, you're still only going to spend a couple of minutes there because you're busy. You're on your phone. We're all multitasking way too much. So you have to respect that and just make that very clear. So you do a button in the email, for instance, goes to one page and it gives them the info and helps them dream. You don't want to make it taking multiple clicks. So, but yeah, an individual blog could be perfect. Okay. All right. Okay, we'll jump into it. I just want to kind of cover a couple different things, and we'll kind of talk about Christopher Place, some of their campaigns that we've run over the years for them, and what we found work. So another way to think about this desire to go out and go into a really, go fishing, for those exciting new customers is trying to fish in a huge lake that's out there. You're fishing, it's huge. There's fish out there, but it's a big lake. When you have a little stocked pond behind you that you could be fishing in and you could be reeling them in. So think about that. That's a little more transactional than I guess what we're really getting at, which is we're not just fishing trying to hook, a heavy sales thing, but think about that. If you're putting all your effort and energy into that pond, you're going to end up quote unquote fishing in it and having much more chance of success. Because like I said, this is the group of people that they already know, they like, and they trust you. They've given you their money, they've traveled there, they know what the experience is like. Get them to come back for different ways. This is good. This is Google. This is OTAs, but it is not your best pond to fish in, so to speak. I want to talk about a little bit about short-term gain versus lifetime value. So this really gets into thinking about the long-term value. So we'll do a little math and have some fun with it. So couple A, think about couple A comes to your property and they stay 2 nights. They may spend, and they spend with you before taxes, $350. For some of you, that you might double that or triple that. For some of you, it might be a little bit less. Just to kind of just play along, with me, and we'll kind of go with it. So just imagine they have a great time. This is a misspelling here, but they leave and their getaway was great. They felt like they escaped from life. They reconnected, but then life happens and they go on and they think, wow, that was a good memory. We're going to go somewhere else. The next time we have a getaway, we're going to go visit somewhere else. And that may always happen, but you think about that compared to lifetime value, thinking about targeting and focusing on someone who has that lifetime value. So imagine that another couple stays 2 nights, spend $350. They have a great experience. That's great. But then they hear from you on a monthly basis. They love their experience. That's really the crux of this, is they love their experience. You took care of them so well. It was not like any other experience that they had. Because if you win on price, and I know you all know this, if you win on price, you lose on price. So price is always a factor because we all have to, spend money and have limited amounts of that. But if you win on that alone, you're always going to lose on that. And there's no value. There's no long-term loyalty with that. So they have a great experience. They hear from you monthly through emails, through social media, other creative things. They're regularly reminded of their getaway and they decide to come back. They could go anywhere else. There's thousands of properties they have available to them, I'm sure, but they come back because you've made that connection and helped to remind them. So that guest that spent $350, let's say, just for simplicity's sake, they stay annually for 5 years at $1,750. So over the course of those 5 years, they stay $1,750. Over that 5 years, they tell 2 other couples, they also book a $700. So $350, 2-night stay, another $350, 2-night stay. So that value for them, plus who they brought in, is $2,450. And you can scale this up or down depending on your uniqueness of your property and those unique aspects. But thinking about that, when you're thinking short term, you're all focused on the $350. It's awfully hard to do great marketing when you're thinking, how do I spend as little as possible to get this guest? But when you realize, when you're dialed into your ideal guest and you have a method on how to reach them, all of a sudden you start thinking in this term. You're not going to collect on that in the short term, but the long term, as you build that loyalty, people are going to come back and they're going to value you, and you're going to profit because that's a much larger number. If I had to spend $100 to get a guest to stay for $350, that's not worth it. That's totally not worth it. But if I would spend $100 knowing odds are I'm going to end up with $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 from them over time, and I have a healthy business that I can sustain that cash flow, absolutely, I'm going to spend that every time. So there's a lot of value in thinking that way and planning that way. You have to have several things dialed in to really profit from that. But that is what we're all about. That Expedia stay, it's great. They're probably not coming back. If you ever tried the Groupon back in the day, they're definitely not coming back. They came on price, and you weren't the cheapest anymore. They came one time, and they're probably the worst guest you ever had. At least that from my other properties, when the Groupon craze was going, they tried it and they're like, wow, that was the worst. So that's an extreme example. But so just orienting yourself towards that and thinking about that is, I find really, really helpful. So, all right. Check here. See if there's any questions as we go. Like I said, we'll dive in more at the end here. Okay, I want to meet Christopher Place Resort. They're an upscale, intimate resort in the Smoky Mountains. 9 rooms. They do some great small weddings, outdoor and indoor, and just a great property. It was built in the 70s. A guy built it as his private home. They bought it about 10, 15 years ago and been running it. We've been working with them for 5 years now. So just to kind of give you kind of some background on that. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. So they do use OTAs. They use Booking.com. They use Expedia. It is a minuscule amount compared to the direct bookings that we focus on. They could have more guests coming through their doors with pushing more aggressive, but they hold their price point on their property and use it as an influx of some new people. But the majority of our focus is on building this asset, building these past guests where we have this relationship and we reach out to them through email and through social media and whatnot. And so that's what we've done. So I'm going to suggest, I can't speak for them, that they like having loyal guests. It's a better model, and they enjoy their business more in doing that. So here is one example of running the relationship booster triangle. So fall in the Smoky Mountains is a big deal. It's beautiful. It's where a ton of guests come, especially their type of guests, where they're not catering towards a lot of the Smoky Mountains, which caters towards families. They're focused on those couples getting away. And so here is an example of an email campaign here. And I should have made this a little bit bigger. But you can see we're talking about imagery, and this is over the course every couple of weeks, sending this, and we're starting in August oftentimes, sometimes even before, getting it in people's minds that, okay, we're planning for the fall. We love the fall. We were there 3 years ago. We're coming back this year because we were reminded on that. So we start that early because summer in Tennessee is pretty rough. The guests still come, but we orient really heavily towards fall and push that. So you can see in these emails, I mentioned this one before, this is a straight up sales email where we're focused on checking availability. It's going right to the reservation page and whatnot. It's also going to a midweek package. But it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't have a countdown timer on it. It doesn't have a hard sell. It's relaxing and escape to somewhere else kind of oriented. We use some of the content that we produce for them, which is another thing. 5 tips to see the fall colors in the Smokies, the best hikes in the Smokies, best events, things like that. And then we promote. So as well, so for them, they don't have a problem usually filling up weekends. The more demand we can generate, the higher their price can be on the weekends. But midweek is still a tough bag because it's in the middle of the school season. They get retired couples, but a lot of others. So midweek is something that some years is more open than we'd like. So we do a midweek package where they can book a 2-night stay We always do focus on 2 nights or more because you make a lot more money with 2-night stays or more because of all the cost and time that goes into a new guest. So we oriented towards 2-3 night stays, but they go during the week. So we make that a part of the promotion, but the focus is on the experience because fall in the Smoky Mountains, you don't have to sell it too hard. So even this is an ad on Facebook that we ran, and you can see here, there's 22 comments, 25 shares. I'm looking here, almost 200, 195 likes and loves, and it doesn't feel, we've got details on their offer, but here it doesn't look like an ad. You'll see what we're talking with Boomerang Ads is retargeting, and retargeting is reaching back out to people. You get that all the time. You get that product you looked at Amazon, people follow up, and they kind of just that annoying little kid, hey, don't you want to purchase? Don't you want to purchase? Don't you want to purchase? And you're like, and sometimes it works, but most of the times it's just really annoying because for whatever reason you don't want to purchase at that time. So following up, especially with a lodging property in a creative way, is ideal. So why would we have 25 people sharing our ad? Well, it feels like not an ad. It's got details on there, but I cut off the top of it because it was too long, but it talks about getting away to the Smokies and whatnot. And it's got pictures where you can just see, wow, I can picture myself sitting there on that porch overlooking that view. So, and we've specifically targeted to people that are their past guests. So using it on a seasonal basis, on how, on promoting that, you can do winter, which is usually slow for most people, except in the deep South or the Caribbean and things like that. But usually winter is pretty rough. So you can do it on a seasonal basis. You want that emotional connection. All right. Holiday gift cards. Most of you, like I said, winter is slow. Cash flow is tight. You've made all your money during the summer and you're trying to get through winter. You might have some things that come up. You might have holiday getaways and things like that, but overall it's a much tighter season. So I find getting creative with your offers and getting more short-term focused really helps while you're also, crafting that emotional connection. I always think in that short, long term, you want to do both. You need the cash flow, you need the revenue, you also need that loyalty. So one of the things that we do for our clients and done for Christopher Place, they did before we started working together, was a Black Friday / holiday gift card promotion. They give a little bit of a bonus, and when you purchase that bonus, you get that gift card, you plan for that trip, either for yourself or you purchase it for someone else. And that is a really powerful cash flow thing that we run towards the end of November and early December. So it can bring in thousands and thousands of dollars of cash that you otherwise wouldn't have, and it's for people planning their trip, most likely for the next year or even a future undetermined date. So they buy a gift certificate. ResNexus, Think Reservations, they all have easy ways to do that. If I've got some properties that don't have easy ways, and we just say call and they write up a gift certificate. So there's lots of different ways to do this. But even during that, thinking about how do you want to sell that experience? People aren't going to buy a $500 gift card on whim. They're going to want it for themselves for the future, and they're going to want it for a guest or for a friend, a family member or a friend. And so talking about those things and really playing that up, and giving them ideas for that is helpful. And so we found this is one way that is very short term, but it really can help clients. So we build several emails, ads, and things like that, going from there. All right, I'm gonna get a drink here. Check the chat. Any questions? No, nothing yet. All right. Thanks for hanging with me. I appreciate you guys going through this, and I hope it's valuable for you. All right. So I'm going to walk through a couple of things and aspects to this, and we'll kind of finish up here, and then I'll be happy to take your questions or brainstorm live with you all, and we can do that. Just, you've probably been to website teardowns and website feedback, and those kinds of things are useful. We can do that for yours and kind of brainstorm live if you want to be a guinea pig. I promise I'll be kind. So anyway, be thinking about that, and we can talk about that. But so crafting an exceptional story, really, this is the key to everything. Making sure that you're dialed in to talking. And I won't wax long on this, but this is really key. Combining where you're located with who you are as a property, with some of the amenities specific that guests really love about you, and talking about that story is really, really useful. And if you don't know what your story is and how it relates to your guests and how it helps them, taking time to do that can be useful. One thing that we do that we're going to be talking a lot about, actually, I guess July 1st is today. The month of July, we do a monthly theme educationally. We're going to be talking about feedback and reviews, but gathering your guest feedback and looking through those feedback and reviews from your past guests. They're telling you what they love about their stay if you're asking them and you're getting. So looking back through that can be a great starting point if you haven't done that. There's a whole depth there, but making sure that you're tying that back and making that really meaningful and can be really helpful. Sharing your story. I talked about this. I just want to cover this again. And that is, you have a lot of creative options to share on how to share your story. Specifically designed for your guest privacy, offers designed to meet their needs and delight them. And then you've got seasons, you've got events, you've got ongoing experiences in your area that you can piggyback on and talk about. And those are really powerful. One of the things I love about the triangle is that you reach people where they are. They spend their time in email and on social media digitally. That's where they spend their time. That's the water cooler. That's the town square. That's where people go. Email is probably more functional, where they typically do not go there to just check out their emails. Social media would be more of that case. But there's probably some emails that you always look at. I think of my wife and I, we've been married 10 years now, and we had the opportunity to go to South Africa for our honeymoon. And we did a part of a service trip. And then the last week we were there, we got to stay. So I'm looking through a guidebook, our entire service trip, to plan where we're going. We just kind of did this, planned it as we were already there and somewhere else. So I found this place that had, in a out of the way area in wine country in South Africa, there's this place that has tree houses, and not just any tree houses, but luxury tree houses, and not in just any location, but in Talba is the place, and it's ringed around with mountains. And inside those mountains, and where we stayed, was this place that we stayed on it was both a little bit of a winery, not a winery, but a vineyard, and grapes, or not grapes, but olive farm. So they did lots of different, and probably some other stuff too, that but you're set on this, in this atmosphere. And we were there in mid-season. Anyway, that is a great reminder. Will I ever make it back there? Probably not. But I always open their emails because they're both good emails, and they help remind me of some great memories. I think it was just a cool place to stay. So, but you get to reach them where they are, and we can do that they reach me through email, and go from there. So you can have control over your message. You have control over the means of how you do that and how you choose that. It's cost effective compared to always running through new guests. And then, like I said, you can target that location. So that's, you control it. You control all aspects of it. As long as you do it well, it's really a great thing. Pitfalls to avoid: you don't want to be pushing specials all the time. You don't want to have those specials be way too huge where they devalue your property. You also don't want to be stingy. These are your past guests. You want to delight them, and you can find ways to do that without sacrificing your profit, especially in a year like 2020. You never offering a special, never offering some type of package is a challenge, because people want you to do the planning for them, and they want to just say, okay, wow, I feel like I'm getting a good deal. I feel like they've done some of the planning for me. So a girls getaway package, a couples getaway package, things like that. You might build a little discount, but the goal is to get them dreaming. So doing that with the right amount, we tend to do some type of targeted offer every other month. That's just kind of the rule of thumb we follow. So we're focused on long-term things more consistently. And in the winter, we go much heavier in the short-term offers, but not sacrificing that emotional connection. Another thing I just want to mention is it's not one and done. You have to do this consistently. On a monthly basis is ideal, reaching people consistently. The old school advertisers of direct mail marketing from the 1920s, 1930s and on said you had to reach someone 7 times in order to get them to take action. They have to be aware of it. You have to connect with them, and then you have to get them to take action. And 7 times is what it took to see your advertisements. I think that still holds true. It's just different. And it even holds true for your past guests. Continuing to dredge up those memories that they have is going to make them come back, rather than say, we're going to try somewhere else. They're going to come back to your property because you've consistently connected with them. So encourage you heavily to do it on a monthly basis, and to do it multiple times a month if you have the resources to do that. So focus on delighting folks with a short-term revenue generator, and you're going to build that asset over time. So, all right, I'm going to give you 2 ways to take action from here, and then I'll open up for questions, and we can kind of dive in. You can ask me anything you want. So the first option is you can grab the 21-point checklist. So we kind of detail our process and all that level of stuff in this checklist, and you can download that. We just asked that you send us your email, and we don't spam you with that. We send you what I strive to be really helpful marketing content for lodging properties. So it's specific for lodging, and it's value-based. So you can see that here. I'm going to drop this in the chat, redoaklocal.com/ALP. And you can see you probably have been on this page, but the resource under here. So what we walked through today, there's a long form article that walks through in more detail that you may find beneficial. That's here. This checklist, you can go to and download that. You just sign up for our email list. We also wrote a 3-stage lodging marketing playbook a couple months ago. That's still useful, even if you're in stage 2 or 3. That's still useful to kind of give you some very creative ideas. This newsletter we send out bi-weekly typically, and try to make it really valuable. And then you can get more ideas on our services and overview here specifically for lodging. Okay, so those are there. So ALP, I'm going to send a link. So get that checklist. It's free, and there's no strings attached. I'm not going to spam you. Like I said, just value. All right. There's the link there. Okay. The second way, so this gives you an idea. It'll help you kind of think through how to do this yourself, if that's what you want to do. And then the second is to schedule a free strategy call. It's with me directly. I handle all sales and a lot of the client communication, so it's not this big high pressure thing. But the goal is to walk you through this pyramid and get into depth. If you want to get in depth with the relationship booster triangle, which I recommend, we can do that. But we can also look from a broad perspective on where you're at with this. We kind of modeled this off of the old food pyramid, where you need a little bit of everything, but you need to start with that foundation. And that's where we do. So we'd walk through that specific to your property. We'd prepare a little report that we'd walk through and give you some creative ideas. From there, you can take that and use that, or we can talk specifically how we can serve you with our services. So take the time to schedule a strategy call, you can, you should have an email from me in your inbox you can respond to, or you can do that. Actually, I'll just throw a link here. So fill out that form. I will get back with you personally as well. And all right. So that, like I said, that's free. That helps us understand, whether we'd be a fit for each other, but you should come away with some very specific value that you can take. So schedule that, and I'd be glad to do that. We'll walk through, like I said, this. Here's the checklist. Like I said, it's 6 total pages, so it's not just this flimsy little thing, and it walks you through a lot of detail and kind of gives you the blueprint on how to do this method really well. Okay, let me see. I've got some notes back here. I think that's it. I'm going to come hover over here and open it up for questions. What did I miss? What questions do you have? I love to hear them. If you want, you can either do that by dropping a comment in the chat, or I can unmute you, or you can add your video and jump on and ask as well, whatever works best for you.